Hello there, good evening everybody. Welcome to 4-0 Sunday Live. We are back. Welcome to the, get this, 21st edition of 4-0 Sunday Live. Thank you for being with us as always for what is always an enjoyable opportunity to share ideas, opinions with you at home. And the boys with all the power tonight for the next hour or so are these wonderful gentlemen. A very good evening to Retro Shirt Sean, Jake, Gaz, who's back. Pepe's back as well. Welcome to you boys, and Jake's here to chat us through yesterday and also look ahead to our trip to Sinsel Bank next weekend too. Before we speak to the gents, there's a lot for us to get through tonight, of course. Before we get into the conversation with our panel, let's take a look back at yesterday's Dockyard defeat. Good afternoon, Andrew!
I reckon 2-0 Pompey.
Bishops get 2, Tunnicliffe to score as well.
It's a really messy moment for Pompey. It almost looks like a routine for Plymouth.
Yeah, disappointing really as they came out
All guns blazing.
all guns blazing.
We're right on the back foot, weren't
We're
we?
looking really, we're only 1-0 down.
It was shorter again. Ragged just conceded a goal. Standard.
The goalmouth scrambles were good, it was exciting, it brought the game to life to what was pretty much a dreary afternoon. And you're like always, Pompey do it to us time after time, build us up and then...
Gives that little glimmer of hope and then it's just gone completely.
But then, on the other side, when it does work out, it's delightful.
Yes.
And you get those moments. But,
Yes. Today sadly wasn't one of those moments.
No, but it makes those ones when they do come so much better.
Goals change games, and that was it. We'll look forward to coming back next year.
Well, we'll hopefully come back next year. We might, both of us might come up, you never know. That was said very much with a wink and a smile. Because either way, I don't think it's likely that Pompey will be playing in the same league as Plymouth next season. Hello, good evening to everyone who joins us. League of Pain TV. Ruben is in Dreamland, thinking Pompey will get playoffs and promotion. Big up to Jake. People, great to see Gaz back as well. It's great to have Gaz with us. Raggett was the worst centre back at Home Park I've seen all season. He was a donkey, and we've got a similar tweet to show up later on as well. So welcome. Thank you for being with us. It's great to have you all, and Douglas is here too. Retro, good evening to you, mate. Welcome. Fresh off the back of a trip to Plymouth, and I know you're a bit more local than we are, but either way, it wasn't a great trip home, was it? After that one,
No, not at all. I'm not looking forward to going to work on Monday.
yes.
It's it wasn't a great performance and disappointing. We thought that with Paddy Lane and some of the players coming back that we might give them a better game, but we were outclassed on the pitch.
And one of your clients, Tommy, is here with us tonight as well, Retro. So there we go. Jake, straight to you. I know you won't say I told you so. I know you said I told you so when you came on earlier before we went live. You watched our video back from yesterday, and the highlights would suggest it was probably closer than a 3-1 loss. But ultimately, Argyle made it look very easy at times against Pompey yesterday.
Yeah, they're a good side, aren't they? Especially when they get the first goal at home, they're pretty much unbeatable. And it just shows you that the attacking options they've got. Cosgrove, Hardy, etc. And they tore you apart a little bit. Not to say that Pompey weren't in the game. Pompey obviously played really well, had a few opportunities themselves. Joe Morell had one in the first half. Obviously, Lincoln target, Rico Hackett scored as well, which was good to see. But I don't think you can be disgraced by the performance, but plenty to improve on, I can imagine, for Burton on Tuesday.
Pepe, you were up there in the press box. How did you reflect on the day overall?
Don't know, in two minds really. I thought it was a good performance in spells. Don't get me wrong. I think they played well and there were positive signs. But at the same time, it's the same errors that we've been seeing all season. Sort of a lack of creativity, a lack of finishing touch, really. And the defensive errors cost us again yesterday. Sean Raggett for the second one. I think the first one, Josh Oluwayemi sort of really couldn't do much about it. I thought at the time it was poor save, but it took a deflection after seeing some replays. And then the third one is really Pompey on top, looking for a goal, and then Plymouth break. So that's an unlucky one, really. But yeah, I thought the atmosphere was class from the Pompey fans yesterday. I wanted to get some video of it, but I couldn't really have time to do it. But no, I think that was the only positive really to take from yesterday was the fans and the atmosphere. But no, I spoke to Rico Hackett afterwards, and he was adamant that there were positive signs to take from it. And I think there are signs, but Pompey really needs to get rid of these errors and start moving forward now.
And Gaz, start say hello to Scott and Andrew. Said we lost to probably the best team in the league, so I don't know why we're so upset. And we'll come on to Plymouth a little bit later. From a beach bar in Barbados, good evening back to you, to Pompey and Itmush. Pepe's just mentioned there, the noise, and that's great. But the fact that Pompey are taken till 2-0 down to actually get going, we saw it against Peterborough a couple of weekends ago. We only really started motoring when, as I said in the video, Plymouth really gave us that option and the space really in order to create what we wanted to at 2-0 down. How important is it? And I think Mousinho was saying it after the game that we need to start these games better. We can't wait until 2-0 down to actually have a mojo with us.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday, even to start with, just about before the football started, iFollow for myself was an absolute disaster because all of a sudden they said iFollow isn't working, so you had to download the EFL app. So everyone that had already bought the game, like myself and probably many other people with a certain VPN to use, they couldn't watch the game unless they downloaded the app. So obviously everyone was scrambling to get that sorted out to start with, and then obviously by then the game had already started for myself anyway. I mean, once I got it on my mobile app, it's different when you're watching it on a mobile phone, obviously, compared to a laptop. It's obviously not as great as live as what you guys experienced there yesterday. But from what I can hear, yeah, I could hear the Pompey fans singing as always. They were always there, passionate as always. But yeah, we didn't start off well. We finished okay, as most games we do. But it takes us to go 1-0 down, 2-0 down, the last 15 minutes of a game to try and turn the game around. But by then, it's too late. For once, yesterday, I thought the referee was okay with some decisions. We've seen some shocking referee decisions in the past, but I thought overall the game yesterday didn't have too many refereeing decisions to talk about, which is good, considering the standard that we've watched these past, basically this season, basically. But yeah, we shoot ourselves in the foot by, a sloppy defensive goal. You've got Josh, he's pulled off some unbelievable saves in the first half to keep us in the game, which I thought that would be a confidence booster. But yeah, silly goals to concede. You go in 1-0 at half time, you're still in the game. I said it in the chat, we're still in the game. We've got to come out fighting in the second half. But second half, again, we give them the head start. We didn't start playing the football that we've seen at the beginning of the season. And then we go another goal down. So now we're 2-0 down. Oh, shall we start kicking, into gear? Then all of a sudden, subs come on. They can change games. We get the goal with Hackett. We thought, oh, okay, brilliant. We're going to go 2-1. We'll get 2-2. I'm happy with that. Then we start playing ping pong football, literally trying to get that second goal. And then what happens, as always, the counter, sucker punch at the other end. You're 3-1 down. I mean, we weren't in the game much yesterday anyway, but 3-1, it's a hard pill to swallow, but, it's a loss at the end of the day. I would have took a draw because that's like a snatch and grab, isn't it? But 3-1, goal difference again, because our goal difference this season it's atrocious, because we just can't, we can't defend, and, we've seen it before, in the past, I'm not blaming Raggett all the time, but I'm beginning to, repeat myself. He wouldn't have played yesterday. If Swanson was fit yesterday, I do believe that on that right-hand side, Swanson would have played, and then Dijon Mustard would have come on in second half with Tyler, and then possibly Raggett on the bench.
Yeah.
But until then, we're injury, Rafferty's still away. Yeah. Lowry, I don't know what injury. He's like half his body's gone. They're trying to re-surgery or something. He got an injury back in September. He ain't come back. I don't know what's happened to him.
Well, with Lowry, Louis Thompson's broken his leg and come back, hasn't he?
I don't know. Is he still at Portsmouth? I don't know. Tell me you've seen him at another place. I don't know. But yeah, last time I looked, he was a Pompey player. So we'll see.
We will see. Yes. We'll come back to you, Gaz. Welcome to the 197 people that join us across YouTube and Facebook. It's really good to have you with us this evening. This is 4-0 Sunday Live, and if you've never seen anything like this before, we have impassioned rages like Gaz has just had about how poor it is following Pompey around the country at the minute. And Gaz wasn't even there, and he's absolutely dejected. So think about it, what it's like when it's 1,600 of us beyond that goal. He touched on it. Gaz touched on loads of points which you're going to build on as the hour progresses, Retro. But to start with the first 20 minutes maybe 10, 15, actually, that might not be very kind on Pompey. 10, 15 minutes, you and Rich both turned to me either side of me and said, this is going to be embarrassing in a minute if we don't sort ourselves out. It wasn't a good start, was it?
No, credit to Plymouth. They came out all guns blazing. They really had us in the back foot. Whoops. So they came out all guns blazing. And, it was at the first sort of foray into our box. And it was squeaky bum time straight away. They literally, had to clear our lines, and they were lucky not to be 1-0 down. And then there was also the penalty shout, which was a very strong penalty shout. Yes. Like Gaz said, 3-1 is probably unfair. I think we were lucky not to get absolutely tonked. I was expecting us to put up a game with the players that we brought in and with the changes of manager and stuff, but we were lucky not to get really, really humiliated.
Watching it back, it's only really Oloyemi that keeps it from being 8-1 Plymouth yesterday. It really genuinely it could have
some amazing reaction saves, deflections as well coming in towards him, and his reactions were spot on. Some of his other bits of goalkeeping weren't as great, but as a reaction save person, he was very top notch at it yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. We'll build on Josh's performance between the sticks later on. Pepe, how frustrating is it that Pompey fans can look around them? Bolton and Plymouth have both gone down to League Two, come back up, and are now comfortably better than us, and we've just stayed in League One in pretty much the same position for that whole time. And days like going down to Home Park just really brings that home, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It is frustrating seeing teams go down and then coming back up and then doing better than you. It just doesn't feel right, and something just doesn't sit right with that. Bolton and Plymouth are prime examples, and it's just Plymouth, they got relegated a couple of years ago, then came straight back up, and then sort of last season they were in the play or just outside the playoffs, and then this season they're obviously top of the league, and Pompey were top of the league 18-19, then 20-21, and then never were consistent enough to win promotion. And you just like, as a fan, that's just so frustrating. And then you've got to look at what's going on to cause that. It can't be. There's got to be reasons for why that isn't happening. Whether that's investment, whether that's players or whoever, management. I don't know. Something has to be questioned. And I said this to you earlier, and I said this, and I spoke to Andy Moon yesterday about it. This is Pompey season done. Like, they need a miracle. Really to get in the playoffs. I feel there's 12 points in 3 months is a tall order, big ask, and there's just no indication really at the moment that that's going to change. We're starting to see positive signs, and there's nothing really indicating that they can put a solid 90-minute performance in where they can outclass a team like we saw at the start of the season. So I don't know. I'm quite resigned to now that's it for Pompey this season. But I know you feel a bit different. But I don't know. I just feel it's a tall order. But just to shout out quickly.
Chloe.
No. Ryan Hardy. I know I sent you a message earlier. Is that the same Ryan Hardy was tipped with a deadline day exit? I know Jack was watching. He came back to haunt us. Really, he had the last laugh. So. I was
He
quite
did.
sad about that one yesterday when he scored. Although I wish he joined Oxford now, but yeah, shame about that one.
For context, go back and watch the tail end of the deadline day stream on either the Young Fan podcast or right here on Fournilwrittenalloverit. I know Pepe said there that I felt differently. My thing was, and I kind of stole this from a comment that a guy called Dan left on our video yesterday, and it made me really think. I think he left it this morning actually. But you look at those top 4 teams now. We've played all 4 of those away from home, right? Only one of them we've actually picked up a draw against. That was Sheffield Wednesday, Barnstormer, first game of the season. Gaz will tell you how mental that was when there were bodies flying everywhere and it felt like we were on top of Mars rather than at the back of Hillsborough. But, you know, you've gone to Ipswich and that one was a close one, but it felt that Ipswich game was pretty similar to Plymouth where we were kind of in it, but then you always kind of knew that you weren't the better side on the day and that the better team was always going to win the game. Bolton was obviously a disaster in the kind of the Simon Bassey interim, and the less said about that, the better. We've obviously still got to go to Derby towards the tail end of the season. My feeling was only that we've now got winnable on paper, not certain winnable, but winnable games to come now. And we were going to chat about this later on in the stream, but oh no, that's the wrong graphic. Don't bring that up, Tom. Let's have a look for that one. If you do not win 4 out of the next 5 games, and I'm saying the one you don't win is Bolton at Fratton Park, then that for me would then be curtains, Pepe, and I'll be completely with you. But I still feel like that there is a little bit of scope in there. We'll come back to that conversation in a minute. Before we do so, I want to go back to the comments. Hello to Seti, welcome along to the stream, mate. Hope you're well. Thank you for being with us. There was a comment on here that I was really keen on bringing up because it was the second person, independent person, that called Raggett a donkey on the stream already, and we're only 18 minutes in, so we're going to get on to conversation about him in a moment. Before we do so, MK1 Aquatics said, ISIS are the root of all decline. Stadium work isn't good enough excuses for a failing team. It's amazing how many people call for Eisen's head after every loss. ITFC fans said, good evening all. Don't be too down. Plymouth by far the best side I've seen at Portland Road this season. And maybe, Sean, we need to take a step back and go, actually, Plymouth, and you if you look at their home form, I thought it was only Port Vale that had beaten them at Home Park and the rest were kind of draws or wins. The rest of them are all wins. All 14 of them are all wins.
They've been playing out of their skins this season. You know, I didn't rate them at the start. They did some shrewd buys, a few shrewd loans, and their previous keeper, Cooper, who was out yesterday, was been keeping them in games and keeping loads of clean sheets. Problem is, they had a reserve keeper in yesterday, and we didn't test him properly. And you know, we had opportunities, but again, it was the finishing. It wasn't clinical. It wasn't. You know, we didn't play to our strengths, and I don't know what it is about Pompey at the minute. They just they aren't clicking, and maybe it is that we've had too many changes. You know, there's lots of new partnerships all over the pitch. You know, our left backs and our right backs are don't know who's in front of them, don't know when to give and go, don't know when to stop, when to track back, and it's all of those unknowns. I think we are still pretty much almost like a new team now. And when you were saying about the games we need to win coming up, we need consistency. And I don't think this team has it now because we are a load of strangers playing together.
And Jake, Plymouth left Mayer, Finazaz, Matete and Ballymumba all out of their starting 11, albeit some of those names did feature not from the start. They didn't feel like they were in any danger of losing the game, speaking to Argyle fans after it. Obviously, 2-2 looked like it could be on at one point after we got that one back. Bit of a shame that with so many stars, Pompey still very much struggled yesterday.
Yeah, they've got quality all around the board, haven't they, Argyle? They were weakened in at the start of the window when Morgan Whittaker was recalled back to Swansea, but they made some really shrewd signings, you know, like Retro said, in you know, the players that have come in, Jay Matete, for example, Callum Wright, who had a really good season at Cheltenham last year, was fantastic, and they've got quality and depth, and ultimately I think that's going to see them over the line. You know, you just spoke about their home record. They've won 42 points at home. That's more than 15 points in the entire division have won all season. It just tells you what sort of task Pompey had going into yesterday. So, but yeah, no, in terms of Argyle's squad depth, it's fantastic, and that's probably the reason they're going to sell to automatic promotion, because you know, if one option's not working, if Sam Cosgrove's not working up front, they can stick on Ryan Hardy, who's a completely different entity, and you've got something else to think about. So, yeah, to answer your question, Argyle didn't need to play all their big players because they knew that they trust the squad depth that they've got.
Absolutely. The other thing that we're going to come on to, and as we've mentioned already on the stream, we don't like to single out players. There are obviously two that have taken an awful lot of flack for yesterday, and that'll be Dane Scarlett and Sean Raggett. We'll come on to chat about them now, Gaz. We said on the way out, myself and Retro, that we could have no complaints about the scoreline yesterday. The reaction to Sean Raggett's performance didn't stop with Retro and Reese and myself, and as this Argyle fans tweeted, and he's sadly not wrong in what he says, I think, based on yesterday.
No, I mean, we've said it probably even from last season. You know, we were trying to think he was going to be, you know, when we start clearing dead wood. For me, he was dead wood last year. You know, but for some reason, he's still in the squad, and he's still getting first. He's still, you know, on the start 11. Whether that's because we don't have a better centre half. I mean, you know, you could find someone from the local pub as a better centre half that plays Sunday League football at the moment compared to Sean Raggett. You know, I'm sick to death of the defensive errors of Sean Raggett. You know, it's just like one of them repetitive things I say every single week. And it's not, I'm not singling him out. It's there for everyone to see. You know, he looks like Bambi on ice. He looks like the most unorthodox person playing football, like he should be an ice skater. You know, he's got that sort of move, you know. He moves 360 degrees like a long lorry. You know, it's just like he just takes forever to see something, you know, and I'm just sick to death of the partnerships, you know, that at the moment ain't working. You know, admittedly, this season, you know, has been disjointed from start to finish. We started like, you know, a good start at the half of the season, but we're playing 4-4-2. Everything was rosy and everything was great. Then all of a sudden, injuries came in. Then all of a sudden, you know, we weren't winning games. And all of a sudden, we sack a manager. The team yesterday is a shell of a team that, like I said to you earlier on today, it's a shell of a team that we started at the beginning of the season. So all of a sudden, you know, we've got these people that are playing in positions, even like, you know, we've had this season, we can talk about it and dissect it. You know, we've had Ogilvie playing right back at one point. We've had, you know, Freeman. We've got Tunnicliffe at the moment playing regular football. I thought Tunnicliffe was done and dusted with Portsmouth Football Club. Now he's a regular in midfield. You know, I mean, that's how much Portsmouth Football Club has changed in a few months. You know, so at the moment we're going through an injury crisis and we're going through a confidence crisis at the moment where, you know, we don't seem to be, you know, when you look at Plymouth yesterday, they made 8 changes. And I thought, 8 changes, we've got a chance here. It was the worst probably thought I ever had in my head. You know, it was like a disaster. And then when I saw the goalkeeping situation, he's not well, we're going to play the second. It's like, oh my God, it's like the omens were up there, you know, unfortunately for yesterday against top of the league Plymouth. Like you say, Fortress at the moment, they're just not going to concede a goal. And luckily we got one yesterday, but it meant nothing in the end. So yeah, this season has just been a disaster at the moment, you know. And yeah, I've said my stuff about Raggett.
We'll chat about him. We'll keep chatting about him because I want to get around the panel and the comments as well. Mark said Raggett is a pro footballer who can't play with his feet. Graham's actually chatting about Scarlett. He said it could have been so different had he passed the ball yesterday rather than hang on to it and get tackled. And we'll have a little deep dive into that in a minute. Darren Archer on Facebook said Raggett and Dale need dropping. Not good enough. Non-league standard. Who is actually signing these players? If it's Richard Hughes, then he has to go. Dylan said, I think Scarlett's getting slated is unjust. He had his best game since Peterborough at home yesterday. And yeah, Andy said, well done, lads, for the positive comments on Argyle. If the table was the other way around, I'm sure we would say the same. It's very interesting, actually. They're not taking the mick anymore. I think it's beyond that point, Argyle fans. They're just going, oh, yeah, great fans, and you deserve so much more. Oh, if being fans was the football, then you'd be Premier League. I'm like, yeah, great, thanks, but that's not what we want. You know the support's there, and we're delighted that we have such a support base. But it's it's not the be all and end all. Pepe, is there a psychological element to it too? Do you think? And if we just hone in on Plymouth with this, not just when it comes to Raggett, but Oliver Yemi as well yesterday to an extent. And I know we said we could have been 8-1 down if it wasn't for him, but when it matters, we seem to lose a lot of composure that we might have had more faith in ourselves for the maybe less tough home tests or going to Fleetwood, for example. Play with a little bit more confidence because you know the eyes of the world in terms of the Ipswich, Sheffield Wednesday playing against Plymouth is not quite there. What do you think?
Yeah, in some way I agree. Yeah, I think it is a team who are severely lacking in confidence. Yeah, there's been a couple of wins since Messino's come in and he's tried to get the confidence back in there, but Pompey is struggling to win games. You had Exeter, Fleetwood, Forest Green, and then you go all the way back to September. So 3 wins in like 4 odd 5 odd months in the league, and it's just where Pompey are at the moment. It's a team with lacking confidence, and individually players are suffering with that as well. I know some players are coming back into it now, but some, I don't know. It's a hard one to explain really, because under Messina there's been positive lights, and then like we saw yesterday, but at the same time we're still seeing, like I mentioned earlier, errors from players that you expect to step up to the mark, really, like Raggett. I thought, yeah, he made a mistake for the second goal, but overall defensively is okay. It's like someone mentioned, playing out from the back is not his forte, but remember he was Pompey's player of the season last season. And some people were, I know Gaz mentioned some people weren't, but he's one of those ones that he's like Marmite, really. He's someone that really gets on really well with the fans, and then others don't like him as well. So I don't know. It's a tough one to explain because I don't think anybody really knows. I think we've all been searching for answers over the last couple of months, and I think yesterday there were positives, but at the same time it's still the same disappointment that we're all going on about still.
Good evening and welcome to the 236 of you who join us live across YouTube and Facebook. Thanks for being with us, and welcome along to 4-0 Sunday Live. Retro, it's obviously never nice to single out single players, and as Dylan points out, it's probably wider across the team. We're going to look at that third goal in a minute, and Pack and Pigott actually lose at our end, and Pack's not tracking back, and he completely stops running for the third one. That's, I don't know whether, it's end of the game, he's tired, whatever, but you never stop running, do you? To fulfill our commitment to presenting a wide-ranging view here on Fournilwrittenalloverit, some might say when it comes to Raggett, that I know we've mentioned that he was our player of the season last year. He's great against the lesser teams with, more physical forwards and balls in the air, but exposed against pace and skill like we saw yesterday at Plymouth. We had this conversation before we went live on air, and do you want to repeat what we were chatting about?
Yeah, so, Raggett, there's normally his commitment is above and beyond most players. He puts his heart and soul on the line. He is not the most talented footballer. We know that. He doesn't play out the back, but he unquestionably does a job. And I think, to be fair to Raggett, maybe part of the problem is the fact that he's playing with players around him who don't know his strengths, and weaknesses. He's got new partnership in the centre back, a new partnership at right back, and therefore he's exposed a lot more now than he probably has. He also hasn't, he hasn't got a commanding keeper behind him yesterday. So all factors for him. But Raggett himself knew he had a bad game when we walked off the pitch, and he sort of clapped but didn't look at the fans, and he sort of walked down the tunnel very, very quickly. And I think he was aware of how bad he did that day. Also, he's not the player he was last season. He's on the wane a little bit, and maybe his best days are behind him. Lots of factors, but I think, don't single someone out. But like Gaz, I'm probably one of the worst critics of Raggett. I've criticised him for several seasons now because he does always give away goals for us. For the season, he'll score the odd header, but he's not the best distributor. And when it comes to clearing the lines, crosses come in, his headers always fall to the opposition. And as a coach, you sort of hope the coach have picked up on that and sort of said, listen, try and direct your header to one of our players. But it's just frustrating.
Scott said Raggett seems to have good spells. Think he gets found out. Messina will have a difficult decision next match. Gaz was saying at the top of the stream, Deschamps to step into the middle with Swanson or Rafferty playing right back. Obviously, Swanson and Rafferty looking like they might be unavailable, but hopefully so. A couple of people noticed. Hello, how are you? Welcome. You've gone the wrong way. Leaning this way. That's the one. We're chatting about Raggett. Good evening, gentlemen.
Andrew.
Good evening.
Gaz, good evening. Nice to see you yesterday, Retro, and see you for a while, mate. Good day.
Likewise.
Good day.
Very good. And the pasta bar.
And the pasta bar. Your pasta bar was all right, yeah. and the walk along the Hoe was lovely. Other than that, it all went wrong. Yeah. Raggett, what? What you think? Is it time to go? Dinosaur, mate. I've said that for many years, and everyone dress it up as much as you like, and listen to what Retro said about it. That is your opinion, by the way, mate. Yeah, that's my opinion. We were entitled to them, aren't we? I've
never rated him. I think he's cost us too many games earlier this season and since then. And I think he doesn't do enough good stuff to give him enough credit to allow him to make the silly mistakes that he makes. He panics and just kicks it anywhere, doesn't he? And it costs us.
Jake, would you like to come in on Raggett? Because you told us before that he's part of Lincoln City's history, isn't he? He's written himself into the history books at Sincil Bank, but maybe provide us with a little bit of balance and nuance, mate. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like Sean. I think from a mentality point of view, I don't think you're going to find a better professional footballer than Sean. His mentality is second to none, but he has got his limitations. Like I said, he scored one of the most important goals in our history when we went and beat Burnley in the FA Cup to get to the quarter-final, but the ball at his feet is definitely not his strengths at all, and I can see where you're coming from. Where against bigger and target men, he's better off than what he is playing against quick centre forward. So, yeah, I mean, he's a great player. I can imagine he's a great leader in the dressing rooms, and he's someone I certainly wouldn't want to lose. But if he's causing you guys more mistakes and costing you more points that he's getting you, then you've got to think about the long-term future of Pompey centre half. And if it comes to Sean Raggett leaving the football club, then that's a decision the football club have to make. But Sean's a top bloke, top professional, and if he plays on Saturday against Lincoln, then he'll receive a standing ovation, and rightly so. But top bloke, top pro. But if he's not cutting the mustard, then you might have to let him go in the window. I'm not too sure.
Let's look into those Plymouth goals in a little bit more detail. Then the first one's a mirror image of a chance that Plymouth had just minutes before that we scrambled away after an Oluwayemi save. You could see quite clearly he wasn't particularly comfortable in goal for us, and Plymouth used that to their advantage as they would. Perhaps the most disappointing thing, though, Gaz, twinned with obviously Raggett's consistent mishaps for not only the goals that Argyle scored, but for the chances they had too, is Pack's pedestrian defending that's been mentioned in the chat. And you can see him gesticulating to Josh in goal. It's not this one, it's the third one, to say you're in no man's land. And then Josh then Rico then backs up Josh and says, well, where were you, Marlon? Like, what was going on? In-house disputes and blaming from our captain. It's born out of frustration or not. It's never going to be helpful, is it?
Well, it's not. I mean, especially when that goal, that conceded was like 3-1. Josh kept us in it in the first half and up until that goal. Like Sean said, we could have been 8-1 down before that goal, before that passage of play. Before it even gets to Josh, you can cut it out. If you're not playing, you're playing ding-dong football at the first. We're trying to get that equaliser at the first half. You still need to defend. But unfortunately, people like Raggett, they're playing musical statues. They're waiting for like the ball to go past and then start running. And by then, they've already got the break. And all of a sudden, the goal's gone. And Josh is still a young goalkeeper. He's still got a lot of learning to do and experience. Obviously, Macy might have done something different yesterday. It's if buts and maybes. But to see a senior player like Pack look like he was having a go at a young goalkeeper like that, it's not going to help him in his future career. For me, it should be like, okay, come on, get up, let's go again. That's what I did in Sunday League football, and it should be in the same professional opinion. If you're a leader and a guy that wants to win the team, you don't start criticising and slagging off your own players. A goalkeeper is a hero or a zero. It's the worst position. It's like a referee. No one wants to be a referee. And the same as when you're at school. If you're no good at football, but you want to play football, you go and goal. That's pretty much it. So,
or you sign for Pompey.
Oh yeah,
you sign for Pompey. But it's not a great position. But fair play to Josh. He's a good goal. He's a good young goalkeeper. But you don't want to see things like that from a supposable leader coming in. And Pack, he got lazy. Like I say, if Pack has a bad game, then all of a sudden Pompey are a mess. He needs to start stepping up for himself. He's a senior player. He's been around the block a bit, so he should be, looking at himself as opposed to slagging off a young goalkeeper for the start.
Yeah, Pack, probably 400, 500, 600 appearances, and Josh is playing his second league game between the sticks for Pompey.
And to be fair, he wasn't even thinking he was playing yesterday, because obviously, it was only a quick illness. All of a sudden, you're starting against Plymouth. It's not like you're starting against, a Morecambe or an Exeter. You're playing Plymouth at home park, Fortress, for God's sake. They make, they're not top of the league for no reason, and you put a young goalkeeper in. and then your captain starts making fun of you basically because you haven't come out of the box quick enough. That ball should have cut. Ball should have been cut in half ages ago before he got to it. But yeah,
and you never stop running. You never stop running, do you?
Should we just say this?
Can I just say hello to Luke before we do?
Luke.
Luke was in I had a chicken royale at Exeter Services to drown my sorrows, and Luke and his dad came up and said hello. So hello to you, Luke, and thanks for being on the Sunday Live. Go on, mate. What do you want to say?
I just wanted to come back on what Gaz was saying about Pack. I think I suppose when you've made a mistake like that in such a critical moment when we could have been 2-2 at that point and didn't quite go in for us on 2 occasions. One was Dame Scarlett, wasn't it? And
as I said, born out of frustration is what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, the point I'd make is that other than that, Pack had an extremely good game and played really well for 90 minutes, all but a couple of little mistakes that he made and then looked to blame someone else. You could do that in a moment of time and madness when you're on the pitch and the pressure's on like that and you feel like you've let everyone down. You sort of point the finger at someone else, perhaps. But
he'll regret doing it, I would imagine.
Of course, I think no doubt he apologised to him for afterwards because it was as Gaz said, a senior moment like that he maybe could have handled it a bit better. But I suppose we've all done that, haven't we? We've all made that error of judgment in that millisecond of time when that pressure's on. But I would say, out of all the players yesterday on that pitch, Pack held it together pretty well and spread that ball around pretty well for us as well. And I think an extremely good game other than that.
Pepe, let's look at some of the positives then. Firstly, the fact that until the third one went in, that Andrew's just been chatting about, and Gaz is talking about as well for the Pack Oliver Yamey moment. And obviously full credit goes to Ryan Hardy for scoring the goal. I feel like we weren't actually out of the game despite the barrage of opportunities that Plymouth had, and well defended by and large, not helped by individual errors, of course, which we've covered. Secondly, the fact that Pompey had some serious chances to make it 2-2. And then thirdly, obviously, Rico's solid effort to get one back.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry. Yeah, definitely. I think first half, they were really good in spells on the ball. They were knocking it about, and you were sort of begging them just to sort of put a chance in. And I know we've just said on the replay there, Morel's chance. I think that was a good bit of play there. You sort of don't really want it to be Morel because he's only scored 1 goal for Pompey. But if that was Colby Bishop, you'd say, oh, he's going to slot that in. But I think they were good on the ball, and I was talking in the car with a couple of people on the way back. They played really well, but and for a lot of the game they were the better team. They just didn't have any chances to show for it really. Whereas Plymouth, when they were on top, they had chances and they obviously converted. But it reminded me a lot of Peterborough 2 weeks ago, in the way we went 2-0 down, and then sort of Pompey then started knocking and then sort of being the better team. Like when Hackett scored, the last 10 minutes it was all Pompey, and then obviously Hardy scored. But I wish Scarlett played it through to Lane because it was a 4-on-3, I think it was, and you just getting him to sort of pass the ball, and he never passed it, unfortunately. But if Pompey got a second, then you're looking again, could they go and get a third? And I'm obviously in the press box, I'm well in with the Plymouth fans, and when Hackett's goal went in and Pompey started to come at Plymouth, they were all a bit nervy and a bit tetchy. And that would have really riled the crowd up, and you never know what could happen if Pompey were to get that second. So yeah, no, I think there were positive signs. It's just a shame they didn't have any chances to show for it. But on the ball, Pack especially, like Andrew mentioned, they played well. He played well in that holding midfield role where he's pinging the ball out left and right, creating chances. I think Dijon Bernard obviously struggled. I think Mikael Miller, he was linked with Pompey in the summer, but he was running circles around Bernard, and you felt really sorry for him because that Miller had so much pace. And then when he came off, they put on Mumba or someone who went on the left, and it just didn't stop from there. And I did feel bad for him there, but I think you can't. I've seen a comment, I wish we had Rafferty, I wish we had Swanson. Rafferty travelled as the 19th man, which is a positive, but you wouldn't want to chat Rafferty in, who's played 60 minutes in a behind closed doors friendly last week and hasn't played for 5-6 months against top of the table Plymouth. But I think they played well yesterday, and I think there were positive signs. They just need to sort of get the first goal really, and that could really change a game.
Jake, from your kind of neutral standpoint, and Pepe was talking about it there, it is a little bit selfish of Dane Scarlett. You're watching Paddy Lane tracking his run literally the whole way. He's literally like any given moment, and he had plenty of opportunity to. He's got a dispatch. We're not saying that's going to lead to a bang on 2-2 equaliser, but when you're 2 on the wins in your sails, if Paddy Lane gets that ball into Colby Bishop, you know there's every opportunity for him to nod it in.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly selfish from Dane Scarlett. I mean, obviously, you guys speak about him being really low on confidence, and you're not sure why he's not just slid Paddy Lane in, because when Paddy Lane's in that position with a ball, he's very dangerous. He showed that for Fleetwood last year. And if he puts the ball across the face of goal, it could be a Pompey player, it could be a Plymouth player that diverts it towards that goal, and it could cause carnage, and you could get another goal, which would then change the face of the game. So, yeah, I think it was a poor decision. And even as a non-Pompey fan, watching it, you're just thinking, just pass the bloody ball, man, will you? Just so you had an opportunity. But young players on his first loan can be a little bit selfish sometimes, and that's ultimately what you get when you hire a player. You bring in a player such as Dane Scarlett's quality, but low on confidence is why I suspect he didn't play that ball.
When you say a non-Pompey fan, you mean you're gradually becoming one?
No, Andrew, no, especially not Saturday.
He won't be next weekend.
Not next weekend.
He won't be next weekend.
Yeah.
That's it, mate. That's it. Yeah, you're right. And the only thing I would add to that, Jake, is perhaps the fact he hasn't had a goal for so long. I think is it Port Vale, Pepe? That was his lot.
Peterborough.
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 So September 3rd, last time he scored a game. And I'm
going
to look really. That's it. I'm going to look really silly because I said at Port Vale after he scored the goal, I was stood next to Retro and I went, he's going to score 10s and 10s for Pompey this season. And it turns out he scored 2 more, I think, since then. But there we go.
That's why he's on loan.
Well, perhaps, yeah. The good news is we're coming to the end of our Plymouth discussion, and we've overrun a little bit as we normally do. Retro, I'll come to you on the last one. Perhaps you have to, and it's a bit of a positive one, so we might struggle with this, but have to give a bit of credit for the substitutions, of course. Rico with a goal. Paddy Lane has just been speaking about revitalising the team around him, but as I said to you on the way out, every minute without Paddy Lane is a minute wasted for me, and I completely stand by that. And at the same time, you appreciate match fitness, of course, and you get that he's only just arrived with us. But perhaps play him for the first hour and then look to bring Jacobs on as required at that point, rather than the other way round. Would you even play Rico over Jacobs if Paddy Lane's not available to start?
We would had a long discussion before at the start of the game, and I think a lot of it was the selection was bemusing for us. Jacobs is not a left winger. He hasn't got the pace. He hasn't got the outlet. He's not that kind of player anymore. He's more sort of, in the centre of the park as a number 10, playing it off him. And he didn't give us anything on that left wing. And he was a luxury player for us. And again, with Dale on the other side, he's a good player, Dale, on his day, but he's a championship player and he gets out-muscled in this league. And again, the whole team selection didn't look balanced. And the players that came on, Rico, you could argue he should have started. And he scored a left foot volley. And I sort of looked at it, it was like, nice little turn, left foot volley. I was like, yeah, you'd like to see that. And it's what he gives you. And he's our sort of utility player. I'd have rather had him out. If Jacobs is not, if Paddy Lane's not match fit yet, at least he brings a bit of energy. But credit to Mazzino, he did make some changes, and those changes paid off.
Yes, and we were fully backing him for doing so, weren't we? Right, that's where we'll leave the Plymouth conversation for now. We could go on for hours, especially you. I know you want to. Well, you probably don't actually, because it's been and gone now. But I'm sure the discussion will rage on. Jack said from the video release yesterday, Raggett was awful. If you skip back a couple of minutes in this stream, Jack, we had a full discussion. Gaz went for it, as did Retro, and the rest of us had a bit of a chat. And Jake was a nice neutral party that all brought us all to a close. Andy enjoyed the video, so thank you for your kind comments on that, Andy.
Did we mention how well Wolves are playing at the minute?
No, we haven't. But
that was my highlight of the day yesterday. Just keeping track of the Wolves score.
When it pinged up, I was like, well, at least there is a God. But there we go.
We enjoyed that moment and the pasty.
We did, yes. Something I want to bring up, and just very quickly, because I know we want to chat briefly about Burton, and then Jake's going to tell us all about his beloved Lincoln City as well. It's very important that we are light in detail on this, and I should say that, and circumstances, etc. There were some incidents between our fans yesterday. Myself, Retro, and the rest of the boys were some distance from it, and Pepe was even further away from it. Gaz was even further away from it. We were some distance from it all unfolding, but it got the attention of everyone around us. People kind of stood up on chairs, looking around just to see what's going on. I won't talk specifics, but I was discussing this with one of the parents of our players who was there yesterday, and they were pretty close to it all unfolding. I'm sure you can make up your own minds about who that was. She was actually quite scared, and she felt quite sad to be near some of the drunk behaviour in the stands. There's some videos on social media circulating. We, of course, won't include them in the stream in our live show for you tonight, but this extended to Plymouth train station, and this time between Plymouth and Pompey fans, and that's obviously part of the cause, Gaz, but physical disputes between your own fans in the away end is something that can't happen, and unfortunately it's been happening too regularly recently.
I mean, it's been there forever, isn't it? In football for, God knows how long, in our lifetime and other people's. Once you've had a few drinks, you're passionate about your game, your football team, you want to make a mark, etc. From the 80s to 90s. But yeah, unfortunately, with football at the moment, they're trying to make it a family atmosphere with kids and with the girls coming in and mums and dads and stuff like that. But yeah, unfortunately, that drinking mentality. I've done it before. I followed England in the 90s. I got myself drunk and I used to do some stupid stuff with England. Because I had a few drinks. But unfortunately now with the policing and etc. It's all there. Social media. Everyone's there with their mobile phones. For me, what happened in the 90s stayed in the 90s. But now, obviously, everything's is there. It's not nice to see. It's not nice to watch. But how can you get rid of it? It's like, I mean, to be fair, half the games that we go to, they run out of ale anyway before half time, or they don't even serve ale. So a lot of fans sober up before the end of the game, but obviously yesterday they didn't. Yeah, and then you get that mentality of people that just follow a club and they just want to cause trouble. That some of them don't even like support football. It's they just go there for the crack of it.
Guys, most of those boys that we're talking about yesterday, we saw quite a gang of them knocking around, Pompey lads that there weren't no ale involved really with them. You could see they were there for one reason only, and that was
exactly, yeah.
But the problem is with our football club, we've got a reputation of having a bit of a following that could be a bit notorious sometimes, a bit like your Millwalls and Cardiffs of this world. And then when there's a bigger game like Plymouth, then you're going to get it. Lincoln on Saturday, it'll be absolutely fine, won't it? There'll be no problems with Lincoln because it's the way it is. It's just, unfortunately, it's not football. It's just society, isn't it? It's just society. Unfortunately,
my specific point, and Retro, you probably be able to shed a bit more light on this because you were there, stood next to me, and I know it's difficult to judge from far away. It was even difficult for us to judge, stood there. But in fan fighting, I know I get the fact that it's rife between sets of supporters, and there's a video at West Ham Chelsea yesterday that was it's an interesting watch. But between our own sets of supporters in our own away end is never really a good sign, is it?
No, not at all. It's you don't want to see it. There's no real place for it. It's just the fact that there are some idiots that follow the club in that way, and they don't know how to control themselves and behave. It is a shame. And inevitably they ruin it for the rest of us, and and they ruin the fan experience of like that woman you mentioned at the start. It's just a shame that this happened, and personally I'd rather see it out of the game.
I mean, I had it, when Pompey away, I went to Wolfsburg away with Portsmouth, and I'm from Gosport, and Lee Park decided to choose Wolfsburg away to have a fight with Gosport, all the way to Germany. You could have done it on Portsdown Hill, but they decided, let's have a fight in Germany, Lee Park versus Gosport. It's like they chose that. I don't know why. They just thought it was funny, but unfortunately it is what it is.
That said, The flip side of all of that, of course, is we met a lot of good Plymouth fans yesterday.
Oh, absolutely.
Had a lot of good conversation with them and enjoyed each other's company, and it was a good bit of banter and a bit of fun.
It's a very,
So
very
it's-
small minority,
yeah,
but
it's-
it's something that's beginning to. I just thought it was a. There you go. Melissa wants a wave, Gaz. There she goes. She's got a wave. Right. Let's get ourselves on to Burton Albion then. I should say thank you very much. There was no need to pay £1.79 for a wave from Andrew. You dishing those out for free, aren't you, normally?
Yeah,
but
dishing them out like pasties, mate.
yeah, absolutely. Yes, let's move on then to speak about Burton very briefly, and obviously Jake's here to chat to us about Lincoln. Straight back into a busy schedule. Kickoff is, well, it would have happened less than 48 hours to go now. Burton have won 3 games on the spin. Pepe, they aren't comfortably safe, of course, in the league. Nonetheless, right now they are safe. It's by no means a guaranteed 3 points at Fratton Park, but it's 3 points we really need on Tuesday.
Yeah, definitely need a 3 points. I'm just looking at their results. They've won the last 3. They made a couple of good deadline day signings as well. That Charlie Kirk from Charlton, and obviously Ghassan Ahadme return there as well. So
he's going to score, and he is going to score.
He scored last season. I've got a bad feeling about it. So if he scores, I'm just going to stop watching football. No, it's going to be a tough game. Obviously, at home, it does help a little bit, and Pompey needs a big win. I think it's needed. They need a solid 90-minute performance where they're dominating, like we saw at the start of the season. When teams came to Fratton Park, they beat Peterborough. That was a solid performance, and countless other performances that we've seen over the last couple of years. And it's obviously Burton are a nice team to play against. Obviously, they're down there, but again, I've just mentioned that they've won their last 3, and with their signings that they did in January, they had one of the best windows in League One. And now they seem to be turning the tide, really. They're pushing away from... sorry, I just got distracted from a comment. A big win. It's a Fournilwritten all over it. So get your money on it. But no, it's a needed...
Please gamble responsibly.
Yeah, please gamble responsibly. But no, they need a performance, and obviously Burton would be a nice place to start with.
Absolutely. Jake, what can you tell us about Burton? I know you keep a keen eye on League One, and they've done pretty well to weather their way out of what was looking like when we last went there. I think they were bottom of the league, or a point off bottom of the league back in September time. So they're getting themselves out of it a little bit, and I think Dino's doing a decent job there at the moment.
Yeah, so Burton had 1 point after 7 games, which sort of told you the story of it. And then since Dino Marmary or whatever it is has come in, I think the form table since then, they've been sort of sat around mid-table as to where we both are in the league table at the minute. And it sort of shows, I think he's been a bit of a firefighter when he's gone in. We played them on Boxing Day. We got beat 3-0. Tells you everything. We were pretty bad. They are a big side. They like to bully their way into games. They're physical, so if you don't match up with the physicality of them, then they'll walk all over you. But then, in their window, they've added some attacking flair like Charlie Kirk, like Ghassan Ahadme. There's a lad they've brought in from Dagenham and Redbridge who scored for fun in the National League. I think it's Josh Walker. They've made some very good signings, and there won't be a pushover. And it's a game that you can target 3 points in. But if you're not on your mettle at 100%, then you're not going to get 3 points because they're a very decent outfit.
The last 3 games against Burton Albion, the 13th of September, Sean, happens to be a Tuesday. The 8th of February was also a Tuesday. And the 28th of September 2021 was a Tuesday. And on Tuesday, it is actually Tuesday as well. So that will be 4 out of the last 4 games against Burton Albion, which have happened on a Tuesday. I mean, conspiracy theory or not, there you go. It's obviously not a bogey team for us because we've won a couple of the last handful of games there.
Definitely a Tuesday game.
It's definitely a Tuesday game.
And Tuesday is Tuesday.
It's definitely a Tuesday game. Back-to-back wins against Burton Albion, followed by back-to-back defeats. Not a team that we seem to win against an awful lot, but not a team that we lose against either.
No, I think like Jake mentioned, they're a physical team. I do worry that like I said before, we've got a couple of luxury players in our team. Paddy Lane looks at the business, but he's a bit lightweight. He's a bit like Morel. I do worry that we can get these players that are not on their game. They'll get bossed out, and we'll struggle. I think it depends on the physical team that Mourinho picks. I'm desperate to see Paddy Lane running around that pitch doing well, but I do think with Dale, Morel, and him, we're very lightweight across the middle of the park. They're very skillful players, and one of them would be a luxury. All three were very lightweight.
Gaz?
For me, Paddy Lane's 21 years old. When I was 21, I was running up and down that line like a whippet. Physicality, I still think technically we can still turn over Burton. It just depends on what team turns up. Do we have to go 2-0 down to start playing football? I'm not sure what the mentality is going to be because it's a quick turnaround again. He hasn't got that long week again now.
I'm sure Raggett could help with that.
I'm sure Raggett can help if he stays on the bench on Saturday. You could take one for the team, and just say, look, I'll take this one out, and then just. But yeah, it all depends on selection dilemma, isn't it? With the coach and to see what happens on Tuesday. Yes, we're at home, so yeah, we've got the 12 man. So it's a Tuesday, as you've already stated. We win on Tuesdays against Burton, but we don't know what team's going to turn up. Hopefully, we'll have a goalkeeper at the back, and then we'll go from there.
Score, Gav?
If buts and maybes.
Score?
What for Tuesday? 4-0 written all over it.
Lovely. Pepe, what are we saying?
Oh, no, I said we need a big win, but it's going to be tough. I'll go safe and go 2-1.
Jake, I know you're, slightly Pompey tinted, perhaps, for this hour of your week, but what do you reckon?
3-1 Pompey, I think. I think it's about time you scored a couple of goals and kept some out as well.
Retro?
I think we're running out of goals in our side. I think Colby's almost done for the season. So I think we will struggle to score. I think we'll pepper them. It depends on the side he picks. But if he picks Dale, Lane, and Morel, then they may nick it. So I'm going to go hard. My heart's going to say 2-0. I worry we could lose 1-0 if they go for those three across the middle of the park.
I would say it's probably a fair point that Retro's got about them being the smaller minority, as it were. However, the two guys that Pepe mentioned and the Plymouth side that ran us ragged were two little tiny chaps. They weren't very big at all, but they were rapid. Pace. They had pace. We struggled. We talked about it, Retro, at the game. There was attacking their home end. We had no one on the right side and no one overlapping, nothing at all. Everything's pumped down the right-hand side, and we didn't have. We were very lethargic. I thought no pace, and I think that's the thing with those three that we mentioned to get in on Tuesday night. I think definitely got to start. Definitely, Paddy or Penny Lane. I was going to call him. We've got to start Penny because you have. I think because he's
definitely he had the most energy.
Yeah, that's the thing, and maybe Rico. Maybe Rico's got to start above Jacobs. And I take your point about the rest of the midfield. Morel, I think he had a great game for 55 minutes. I thought he was brilliant at Plymouth, and he's only a little chap as well, isn't he? So
he loves a tackle.
He loves to tackle.
He doesn't have the power, but he's got a tackle on him.
The problem is without the wingers bombing on, Pack just passes sideways. He looks good, but he just packs sideways, and it's ineffective. We need.
Yeah, we shouldn't.
We need the energy.
Go on.
Yeah, just saying we need the energy down the flanks. And I think Paddy Lane had it. I think Rico could do it. But Dale, he has the energy, but he seems to get lost and wanders into the middle of the park.
If the injury timeline is on track, which I'm sure Pepe will be able to maybe shed a little bit of light on, I think we're expecting Ronan to be available for this game. We're looking for the Burton game. That was Mourinho saying that about a week and a half ago. Whether that's still something as well, it's another, something to throw into the hat and say, right, there's another option for you.
Definitely, he'll bring a lot of aggression to that side, and he'll stabilise and take the fight to Burton in the first sort of. If he starts, take them to the first sort of half, and then I'd bring on the luxury players as they tire.
Would you would you say Joe Mingy and Ronan, those two, if they were available fit against Plymouth, would we have chosen those two? There's a dilemma there as well, isn't there?
What's your score? Because I'm aware we want to move on to Lincoln.
Yeah, well, I suppose. I think we want to move on to Lincoln. My score, I think we'll beat them convincingly. I think it's time we banged a few in, and I think it's time that Colby knocked a few in again. And I think we might beat them 4-0.
Lincoln City are the only remaining unbeaten side at home in League One this season. They haven't lost any of their 14 games at Sincil Bank so far, yet they have an identical home record to Pompey. Both teams have picked up 20 points on home turf and have a +4 goal difference. The Imps are unbeaten in their last 4, have 2 wins from 5 and have kept 4 straight clean sheets too. Pompey won all 3 of their last 3 trips to Lincolnshire, each of them by at least a 2-goal margin. It was a case of if at first you don't succeed for Rico last time out away from home, which sealed a 3-0 win on the road for Pompey. Well, Jake is here, and sorry to refresh your memory of that. A certain Mr. George Hurst also scored that night as I was looking back at it during the day today, but the less said about his current destination, the better. I believe he has scored now for him, though, hasn't he? So that's quicker than he did for us. So there we go. Thanks for being with us, mate. Myself and Jake are in regular contact, not just in a football sense, of course, but we doesn't feel that long ago when you were saying you're really down in the dumps about your team. What's changed, and what can we expect when we look? What can we look forward to, perhaps, for the Danny Cowley derby?
What's changed? That the signing of Ethan Erahon from St Mirren absolutely completely changed the football club. Obviously linked with a lot of teams in. I think we signed him on deadline day when we did that stream, which was nice as well. But he's just come in and made us like a completely different outfit. In midfield, he's so strong, so tenacious. He just allows us to play 10 yards further up the pitch, and that unlocks then Teddy Bishop going forward and Jack Diamond and Shadipo and Ben House, who are options that we've got. And you guys saying that you're struggling to deal with pace and stuff like that really excites me, because we are electric going forward, especially the last couple of weeks. Like Bristol Rovers yesterday, how we've not scored at least 4, I've got absolutely no idea. So but then Joey Barton went to 4-4-2, which I know you guys will like to hear. But yeah, no, look, we're in a good moment at the minute. Obviously, that could all be put to an end on Tuesday, because we've got Derby away, which will be a really tough game. But we've not conceded a league goal in over 550 minutes of football. So you'll do well to score. Obviously, we've got the unbeaten record at home, only 3 wins in that. But still, to have that going into February is pretty impressive. So I think it's going to be difficult for you, Tom, if I'm perfectly honest. And if we pull off a positive performance on Tuesday night, then it could be a real difficult game for you.
Dylan's looking forward to meeting you on Saturday. I think it might actually be Friday as it goes, but there we go. Looking forward to that. Graham reckons it's going to be a Lincoln win. Excuse me. Logan said, feel like Lincoln has got 1-1 written. That's the Plymouth voice, by the way. Still trying to come back from yesterday, trying to get behind the boys at 2-1 down. So apologies. That was all in vain, as we know. I think that's probably referring to for Tuesday night as a 4-0 Towler Bishop Lane. But there we go. It's going to be difficult, Retro. We went to a place where, there's only been one side to beat Plymouth at home all season. We're now going to a place next weekend where there have been no sides to beat their opposition at Sincil Bank. What are you expecting from next weekend?
Pompey to huff and puff and struggle to score goals, because, we need goals in our team. Curtis has scored 1 this season. I was relying on him scoring 10. And we're struggling, and we were 8 short anyway. So I think, we might get something lucky, but I think we're going to struggle to score goals.
Gaz, you concerned by the goals? Because I actually thought when we started under Messinio, I think it was I don't want to quote the stats particularly, but we'd scored 2 away at Fleetwood, scored a couple against Exeter, another one against Peterborough. So I think it was 5 goals in the space of probably 3 games, but that's obviously kind of sapped a little bit, Gaz.
Yeah, and no disrespect to them teams. I mean, Exeter and Fleetwood, they're sort of teams you'd probably score against. And then obviously then you get trounced against, you struggle against the bigger teams, shall we say, like the big 6, in League One. Lincoln this weekend, next weekend it's not going to be easy. they're on confidence at the moment. You know, they had 2 draws and now they've had 2 wins. So they're in a rich vein of form at the moment. It'll depend on the Tuesday game again. You know, if we absolutely batter Burton 5-0, which we haven't had a great, you know, we need to thump a team. You know, literally get them out. You know, play them off the park by half time to get confidence going. We haven't done that for so long as a Pompey team. So if we have a confidence builder on Tuesday, that puts us in good stead for Saturday. But yeah, Lincoln at the moment, they've got some good players. Obviously, some of the players that we were trying to sign ourselves, you know, we're before the transfer deadline day. It's going to be tight. It's going to be interesting. So we'll see what happens.
We should say, I'm sorry it's taken us an hour and 6 minutes to say, but this is the first time we've seen Gaz since his birthday. So very happy birthday to you, mate. Thank you for joining us. As why wasn't with us last weekend. And actually, on Fournil Sunday Live, would you say?
Half a century now, 50 years old.
Half a century. That's the same as you, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And,
I've still got my hair, so I'm doing all right.
Yes, I've always got an answer for one of them. You know that, don't you? You know the answer coming back, don't you? I can wear a hat, mate. What can you do about your boat race?
Nice.
Ooh.
It's also, he's heard it all before between these two, so don't worry. It's all happened before. It's also the first appearance on 4-0 Sunday Live since Retro's birthday as well, and the attire that he was in was a nice little number from a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? That we had a bit of exchange on. But happy birthday to you too, mate. And we're very much looking forward to celebrating at Cambridge away with you, Gaz, for your birthday as well.
I'll be there. Looking forward to Cambridge.
Next time Gaz is on for Cambridge. Jake, is there anything else that Pompey need to know about before we start wrapping up and going for some score predictions around the group?
No, not at all. I'm not letting you give John Massini absolutely anything. I've sort of been recording this conversation privately, and I'm going to send it all to Mark Kennedy as soon as we're finished. So
excellent.
I'm going to give you absolutely nothing, mate, to be honest. But yeah, thank you very much for all your inside information. On how you're
genuinely not going to give us anything?
No, well,
apart like that Barnsley guy. That Barnsley guy gave us everything, didn't he? He was like, "Oh, watches on the left, watches on the right." You know.
Watches everywhere, because you're going to need to. Because if you don't, watches everywhere, you'll get beat. I'll give you that.
Well, I tell you what, I did it for you, Jake. So don't worry. I like your one-touch pass and go movement. I thought your tempo was a lot higher this weekend than it was against Cambridge last weekend. You're a team full of confidence at the minute, and I just think if you can do what teams do to us and maybe put 3 men on Pack, 3 men on Ethan Errahun, and then you might have a little bit of joy and try and cut off that supply line, John, if you're watching. There you go. Done Jake's job for him. So,
Jake, how much did Lincoln buy Errahun for? Is he?
Now it was reported that it was £300,000, but from what we could tell on our end, that's a bit too high. He's not become our record signing. Apparently, 300 grand is what it can reach if, for example, he's to go on and hit all the performance-based inherited and stuff that in the contract. But I can imagine that maybe the upfront fee might have been about 150k, but at the minute that is looking like an absolute steal. You'll see on Saturday, hopefully. Two games, 2 man of the match performances. So yeah, he's not a bad player, to be fair.
He's probably going to get injured at Derby.
Well,
we're not going to touch the ball at Derby, so I can't imagine he will.
Well, I was going to say, with all disrespect, Jake, no disrespect, that one could quite easily be double figures if you're not on your mettle.
I'd argue that we've only lost 1 game against the top 6 all season so far.
This is true.
Maybe not.
But they're flying like the absolute.
But they lost on Saturday, so and we beat them in the season already. So bring it on.
We'll see. Score, Jake, for next weekend?
2-0 Lincoln.
Said with the chest. Retro's going to agree with you now. Listen to this. Go on, Retro.
I'm going to go for a 1-0 Pompey steal. I'm hoping Piggott will pick one out for us.
Gaza?
I'm going to go for a classic. I'm going to go for a 3-2. I'm going to go for a Pompey last-minute header. Colby Bishop.
Love it. You're not going, are you? Or are you?
I'm going to go with this. Yeah. I think the man in the top right's deluded, frankly.
People call you that all the time, so you can be dishing that out on other people.
No, we're going to hammer Burton 4-0 and go up to Lincoln and beat them 4-0 as well.
Nice.
Well,
Thanks for
There you
that.
go. in 1 week. Wow.
Who's going to score all the goals?
Yes. Patrick's.
I'll tell you off camera because I'm not letting him into anything.
Don't talk about nothing.
Hat trick.
We've had our happy birthdays. What did you say, Retro?
Raggett hat trick.
All right.
Of own goals, mate.
That's what I heard.
That's Plymouth's lethal weapon, isn't it, Raggett?
That's it. Yeah. Before we get to Pepe for score prediction, we've had our happy birthday shouts. It was confirmed between the last time Pepe came on 4-0 Sunday Live that he's been offered a job to remain at the News beyond his apprenticeship. He's been working incredibly hard for the last 18 months, and he's going to continue reporting, everybody. So we're all delighted.
Payne of Portsmouth. You could have chosen a different team. I mean,
at least I get paid to watch Pompey, so I don't have to pay for a season ticket. So I'm all right.
It's your mental health I'm worried about. Not
no, that's already in the bin, so it's fine.
You have to move to Malta like I did. You know,
I might come and join you out there in a season.
Well, he's on his way for the stag too. If we're going to chat anything about what was spoken about before the live, Pep, what's your score, mate? What are we saying?
I'm going to join Retro and go for a very, very tight 1-0. It's going to be very tight. But yeah, 1-0, maybe just some Colby Bishop magic, please.
Yeah,
I'm crying out for help.
we need it, mate. We definitely need it. That's interesting, Pepe. You got a Argyle. I don't know if he follows your column or whether he's talking about 4-0, but either way, go and have a look at Pepe's if you don't. And thanks for being with us on 4-0. That's great to see. Lee, just quickly before we go through a couple more comments, has said seeing Marlon not running back is what broke my heart yesterday. He needs a sidekick Larry back, his sidekick Larry back with an attacking third midfielder. I think that's the key to Pompey being successful. Well, let's hope we're embarking on a successful Pompey week. You're right. I'm making that's quite a loud noise. Sorry about that, everyone at home. If you enjoyed a little bit of that. We shall see what happens in the next 7 days or so. Hopefully we're back here in 7 days' time with smiles on our faces. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Thank you to Retro. Thanks to Jake for providing that little bit of balance. Gaz, you're a ray of sunshine as always, and a massive thank you and congratulations again to Pepe on the news. We'll see you all on Tuesday night. And I tell you what, I didn't give a score for Tuesday night. I think the performance will mirror that of Cambridge at home. The Ogilvy, all the bits and pieces, playing like a team again, bit of confidence, and we'll have a 4-1 win. How about that? Have a bit of that. Thanks for watching. Have a great Sunday night, and we'll see you Tuesday. Play at Pompey.
Play at Pompey.